Welcome to the Wellness Real Estate Podcast. Today, we'll be helping you unlock your unique voice to rise above the competition. And I have special guest Cliff Jones here today. He's the founder and managing partner of Clarity Strategic Coaching in Scottsdale, Arizona. Over the past 21 years, Cliff has served company founders and leaders as an executive coach, facilitator, strategic advisor, and communications consultant. Cliff works in various industries, heavily emphasizing technology companies, financial services, and real estate, investment banking, mortgage, and professional services. He is the author and co-author of 5 books, including the most recent book, Radical Clarity for Business: How to Empower People for Better Results at Work, available on Amazon.com. He recently ghostwrote a nonfiction book about commercial real estate and has published hundreds of articles available on Amazon, the Business Journal, Huffington Post, Medium, Substack, LinkedIn, YouTube, and the Clarity channel. So if you're finding it hard to generate leads for your real estate business, it could just be your mindset and tapping into your unique voice that could shift everything. So if you're curious, then stay tuned because it's your time to shine. Let's grow. Welcome to the Wellness Real Estate Podcast, where you'll discover a groundbreaking strategy that is transforming real estate marketing. In every episode, we focus on topics that will help you have more authentic engagements and meaningful conversations about your business. As the wellness real estate impact grows, with projections reaching $850 billion by 2027, don't miss this opportunity to revolutionize your approach, generate more leads, and increase sales, becoming the community connector you're meant to be. I'm Sheila Alston, and I'm your host. I'm also the founder of Healthy Home Media, where I help agents all over the country leverage this new trend in the industry to spark new conversations that get people to listen to you and notice your brand. So if you're tired of spinning your wheels without the consistent leads to show for it, then stay tuned. This podcast is your guide to standing out in a rapidly evolving market, guaranteed to change the way you think about real estate marketing. Hey, I am so excited to be here today on the podcast. Today we have Cliff Jones. He's with Clarity Strategic Coaching. He's an executive coach, strategic advisor, and communications consultant, and he's been running his own business for over 30 years. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Sheila, for having me today. Pleasure to be with you.
Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about how we see ourselves and how we can stand out in a saturated marketplace. This is such an important topic, so I'm excited to get started. Thank you.
Well, I'll let your audience know first and foremost. I grew up in residential real estate because my parents decided to go into the business after their hotel and condominium development and all that imploded, going into 1980s inflation era. So that was in the 70s when I was a kid, and the necessity, the urgency that came from the financial need to pay the mortgage, clothe the family. I'm one of 3 kids. I was blessed to watch my parents reinvent themselves in the real estate business and create a brand that to this day, decades later, still stands out in the little market where it's located in Laconia, New Hampshire, where I grew up. So I know a little bit about real estate and happy to chat with you today about how we differentiate ourselves, how we forge ahead through all the ups and downs we face in marketing our personal brand and getting listings and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important because I think that if you just, go and get your license and you're just, Jane real estate agent or John real estate agent, you don't have a brand or you don't have, your value proposition at least established, how are you going to go out there and start attracting those leads? Because everybody knows, 7 to 10 agents. So
Sure, or
yeah,
more. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
great question. So differentiating ourselves in any business is paramount to our success. And a lot of that it begins with our mindset and how we see ourselves, because how we see ourselves determines uh, and how we know ourselves determines how clear we are on what we want to do as a professional to make a living. So, for example, anybody in your audience has a burning passion, just on fire every day for real estate, chances are they're going to be more visible, more connected, more what I call in traffic, uh, building relationships, looking for opportunities, and teeing up those opportunities for a listing, or perhaps a buyer who wants you to drive them around, to tour 10 different houses before they make a decision. So that passion and how you see yourself determines your success over longer periods of time, because nobody becomes a successful real estate agent, any business, overnight. It takes
Mhm.
years of devotion, and the only way that devotion is going to be sustained through all the marketing and business transactions and trials we face is if you are completely passionate, for example, about helping people find their dream home.
So what if you just got into the business and you think you like real estate, you might be good about it, you love looking at houses, you think you know the market pretty well, and you don't know if you have quite that passion. How do you, and maybe explain a little bit about the mindset that you need, and how can you get this passion going, or do you need to have it day one?
Well, so some people have what I call that burning bush experience at some point
Mm-hmm.
in their life where they say, I want to be a real estate agent. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going, I hired a guy when I worked in the hotel business. His name is Sandy Carpin. I'll never forget Sandy. He still lives here in Scottsdale, where I live, Arizona. And Sandy left the hotel business and he said, I am going to be one of the most successful real estate agents in this market. I'm going to do everything I can to promote myself
Mm-hmm.
and win business. And what Sandy did for 30 years, he was an inordinately successful residential agent from the beginning, is Sandy loved helping people find their dream home. It wasn't about as much making the money and being rich and the ego-centric things that drive us. It was about making a difference for people moving into one of the, what I humbly believe is one of the greatest places in the world to live, and finding their dream home and helping them sleep well at night. So
Mm-hmm.
Sandy's passion came from his self-view, his self-awareness. He liked himself. He was brand new to the industry, didn't know anything, but he was gregarious. He is gregarious, people person, externally focused on being of service to others. And he was
Mm-hmm.
so busy all the time. I'll never forget seeing his pictures in all the local papers. He'd do goofy things to stand out that would make people laugh. He'd get on the roof of one of his listings and he'd have pictures taken of him and he'd say something funny and it would show up in an advertisement in one of the local papers. And this was before the internet took over, which,
Mm-hmm.
good news, bad news. The internet makes it easier to build a business in real estate and it makes it a little more complicated too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Sandy Carpin, to answer your question, Sheila, had a self view that was just, I'm going to help people, I'm going to make a difference. And that was his internal motivation based on his core values, his character, which is a function of self awareness evolving as we mature.
Yeah. So, okay. So I feel like that's a key component that maybe a lot of people are missing. So maybe it's kind of take a step back and think about your business. And then what are some, I guess, questions that you need to be asking yourself to start having that right mindset?
Well, the biggest question in all the world religions we're taught to ask is, who am I? Who
Mm-hmm.
am I?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? If we don't know who we are at the core, from a spiritual, physical, all the things that comprise us, mentally, physically, spiritually, we will flounder. I did
Mm-hmm.
it for decades.
Mm-hmm.
I did it in my first business. I wanted to own a business. It was just a desire I had. And it was all about me. And I got the
Mm-hmm.
money and I sold the business, but all that went away because I
Mm-hmm.
was motivated by the wrong things. So
Mm-hmm.
for anybody listening today, if you are trying to figure out if real estate is right for you, the
Mm-hmm.
answer lies within you by knowing yourself. And the only way to figure that out is to get into the business. Once you get out of school, you get your license, you find a broker, a firm that will support you and pay you the way you expect to be paid. And then you get busy. You throw yourself into the market. You learn everything you can. And what you'll learn over a reasonable period of time is what not to do. That's what strategy is all about. You'll try 10,000 different things to market yourself. Most of them won't work fast and they won't
Mhm.
work well, but virtually all of them will work well over longer periods of time if we have the passion and self-dedication, commitment, work ethic to hustle more than the average person. People are lazy today. So inherently, lazy real estate agents, lazy business coaches, lazy
Mhm.
any they're gonna get left behind because people who are on fire and they know themselves, they're going to be a light in the market and people are attracted to light, not dark.
Well, so then how important is networking and things? Because I would think that if you align with a broker that, you feel aligned with, will have kind of a path so that you don't have to try 10,000 things to see that they don't work, right? You can kind of be on a path that is going to help you get there a little bit faster.
Well, networking is essential because real estate is a local business. So, for
Hmm.
example, I just finished ghostwriting a book for an inordinately successful commercial real estate broker
Hmm.
agent, 30 plus years. He focused on medical office. He found his way over time.
Hmm.
He started with a decent firm,
Hmm.
but the truth is, most firms are going to do a little bit for you, but the higher payout firms, you're pretty much going to be on your own. You're going to have to
Hmm.
figure out your own marketing plan, and networking is paramount. In my early days networking, I got involved with Make-A-Wish Foundation, Junior Achievement, organizations in my community that I felt passionate about helping. I had a skill set I could contribute to, entrepreneurship, things like that.
Hmm.
Schools, kids, empowering small business growth, entrepreneurship. And that's how I built my network. I also was a very high level athlete. So I joined one of the nicest local clubs. And I didn't use the club to find business, but being naturally, because I had so much at the club doing what I loved to do naturally, I
Hmm.
attracted people, built relationships, and many of them helped my business. And the same is true for people in real estate. That particular business was a wealth management business. And just like real estate, it's a crowded business,
Hmm.
tens and tens of thousands of people, undifferentiated, not hustling, not sure, not self-confident, not self-disciplined, and that's why the minority of people in any business will rise to the top. They just out hustle, outshine. That light in them is a burning fire, and it motivates them through thick and thin.
Right. I mean, I think the attitude is what has to start first, right? Because if you just don't have the right attitude, then all of this work that you see kind of feels like a grind and a work, right? But if you have the right attitude and you feel like this is going to happen for you, then it seems more like opportunities and you're excited to network and you're excited to do all these things because you're learning and growing. And so that
Yes.
can make all the difference, right? Because you say hustle and some people might think, "Oh God, I don't want to hustle." Like, but if
Yeah.
for someone who's learning and growing, then the hustle doesn't seem like as much work to someone who's not really wanting to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, the key is when we see ourselves being of service to others,
Mm-hmm.
helping them find their dream homes. When I
Mm-hmm.
had a wealth management business, I had a client named Ron. He was the number one real estate agent in one of the big new developments here in Scottsdale. Outsold everybody by 5x.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to know Ron very well. And I said, Ron, what's your secret? He said, Cliff, first of all, I know my clients very well. This is
Mm-hmm.
not about me. This is me helping them find their dream home. And I
Mm-hmm.
know who the decision maker is in the
Mm-hmm.
buying process.
Mm-hmm.
And I take the time to get to know the decision maker so well that the thing that sets me apart is I take them into it. These were new development homes, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I take them to the lot and I would have the decision maker stand where he or she would see their dream view from their kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So he literally was so passionate about being successful and helping people find their dream home, that he found a way to connect with his clients at a spiritual, it's going to sound kind
Mm-hmm.
of goofy to some people, but we are spiritual beings in a physical body. And if you're in real
Mm,
estate, it's the same deal, right? So
mhm,
we're connecting with people all the time at an energetic level.
mhm,
And if we're self-serving and talking too much and not focused on their needs,
mhm,
people pick up on that consciously and unconsciously. I've seen that in the buying process with agents buying my
mhm,
own properties over the years. They're just not tuned in to what the homeowner is really seeking
mhm.
for their sanctity.
I would say that's so important. I've talked to a lot of successful agents and they have said, it's all about the questions you ask, getting to know them, right? Taking the time to understand exactly what the nuances are, not just, let's check the boxes. You're looking for this, many bedrooms, whatever, because nobody wants to waste their time. So if you don't take the time to ask a lot of good questions, then you could be showing them homes that they're like, why did they show me that?
Yep. Yep.
And then they're not as connected to you as if you really took the time in the beginning to get to know them so that you could have this relationship where you can be somewhere and say, oh my gosh, can you imagine yourself in this home? Does this feel like this view is the dream that you've been thinking of or whatever? If you said that and you didn't know them well enough, then it comes across as not, very as genuine as if you took the time to get to know them better. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we are too focused on making money and getting
Hmm.
what we want, and we're not genuinely heart-centered, caring, serving our market, we will suffer. Our
Hmm.
business will suffer. We won't get what we want, and a lot of us won't know why it's not happening. And it's because of who we are, how we're showing up, the energy we carry, and the intention we have to make a difference for our clients as opposed to for ourselves.
I'm curious, when you said your parents reinvented themselves, can you talk a little bit about that? And have you seen that in kind of the same sort of things in your clients over the years?
Yes, I'm happy to talk about that. That was a very traumatic time in my life, and
Mm,
I'm super grateful for it now. My parents came from two different worlds,
mm,
poverty and
mm,
inordinate wealth. The
mm,
expectation of one parent by one parent of the other to create that wealth was so overwhelming, it basically crushed my dad.
mm,
The economy folded, his hotel folded, the condos folded, everything folded overnight. The income got shut off. My mom
mm,
was at home with us. This was in the 70s, like most moms were.
mm,
And so what do? You have no income. You have no foresight that this is going to happen. You just lose
mm,
everything. The bankers and lawyers and everybody's coming at you. My parents started fighting.
mm,
My dad had a friend and coworker from the hotel business. He was the general manager, one of the owners, and
mm,
together they started Old Mill Properties. And
mm,
I'll never forget this. I mean, this is a total scramble to reinvent
mm,
yourself. We're living in
mm.
a small town. We have three kids. We have no income. We have little savings. We're screwed. What do we do?
My gosh.
Well, you
Yeah.
don't start making money in real estate overnight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so they put some money together. They started it was a Coldwell Banker. It eventually got bought by Coldwell Banker. But Old Mill Properties started out as a boutique real estate firm. Everybody leased brand new Mercedes. The logo was unbelievable. The energy around the brand stood out, and the agents they attracted were board level, like movers and shakers in town
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
launch the brand. And the
Hmm.
brand, because of the people
Hmm.
doing the right thing for their clients, the renters and the
Hmm.
owners, buyers and sellers,
Hmm.
they built a very successful brand because of who they were as people,
Hmm. Hmm.
despite all the mayhem that they faced reinventing themselves. But that's what they decided to do. They're like, we're staying in this town, we're raising our family here, unlike
Hmm.
Boston, where we moved from years before. And they said, family's most important, and we're going to build a family business,
Hmm.
and we're going to stay here. We're going to make it happen. And that's what they did.
Wow. And then just from your viewpoint, being a young child and seeing that, how well, stressful, but then ultimately inspirational that you can start from scratch.
Well, yes, my parents, I get emotional when I think about them. My dad's no longer here. He and I were extremely close. I'm pretty sure he was a modern day mystic and didn't know it. Just an
Mhm.
inordinately loving, caring, sensitive man. But together they built the business. They put their differences aside. My mom went to the rental side of the business, seasonal rentals, because her priority was the kids and
Mhm.
her volunteer work in the community, which everybody did, by the way.
Mhm.
So if you're not volunteering in community being a community driven business, get
Mhm.
involved in your community, even if you're
Mhm.
introverted, even if it's uncomfortable, because I'm more introverted than extroverted. And I
Mhm.
didn't figure that out till way later in life. And I always thought
Mhm.
something was wrong with me because I felt
Mhm.
goofy networking and being I felt something was wrong with me, broken. But if you're new in the business and you're putting yourself out on these in the market and volunteering and networking and showing up in events, much like real estate agents do. I mean, I have a daughter-in-law. She owns a
Mhm.
state farm agency, and she is one of the top producers in the nation because she's always out. She's
Mhm.
always doing something, sponsoring this, attending that. And guess what? That takes a passion and a burning desire and a self-view, a self-awareness. Is like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I love it. Because if
And
it's not love, you're not going to be successful.
yeah, and it's funny because I do think that it goes back to the mindset, right? Because if you're networking and you're insecure and you're a little introverted, but even if you are, but you have a passion for, or maybe not a passion, but just a desire to want to go meet people and be part of your community, that's different than going to networking to want to grow your business.
Yes, yes, and every great networking organization, Kiwanis, Rotary, all those that I was, whatever, they're saying, hey, don't come here to look for business. Come here
Mm-hmm.
with your servant heart, be part
Mm-hmm.
of our tribe, and
Mm-hmm.
serve in the community and watch what
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's
and
a
then that's ends up being a
selfless.
side effect, right? But if you go for the business first, people kind of sense that, and then you'll be just sort of wasting your time running around,
Y-
right?
y- Yes, and before we started recording, we are talking about how LinkedIn plays a role for
Mm-hmm.
real estate agents. What the main dynamic on LinkedIn is salespeople so abuse it
Mm-hmm.
through irrelevant, cold,
Mm-hmm.
heartless messaging that almost everybody has an aversion to that. That's why
Mm-hmm.
sales as a profession, being
Mm-hmm.
among the highest paid professions in the world, always um, can be challenging. I
Right.
mean, you have if you're selling something to somebody that is not receptive to it, they're going to take
Mm-hmm.
offense to it, consciously or unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens in many industries. Car dealerships are renowned for horrendous sales practices, but we read about it all the time. And those are people who lack a servant heart. They
Mm-hmm.
lack self-awareness, God awareness, higher power awareness, whatever you want to call it, and they're in it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see what happens in a family, in a community, anywhere where we have too many self-serving people.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work. So in the business of real estate, I mean, we bought another home 4 years or so ago, the smallest, ugliest, most infested home we could where we wanted to live, and we fixed it up over the few years. And the agent was phenomenal. Because buyer's agent, tough
Mm-hmm.
role, buyer's agent. You have to have the
Mm-hmm.
patience of Job, and she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And we would use her again because she
Yeah.
cared and she was
Yeah.
patient. And Janice, my beautiful wife of almost 40 years, she was the driver of the bus with Sue.
Yeah.
And then I come out and I'm like, okay, this will work, as opposed
Yeah.
to the 10 that wouldn't.
Yeah.
But that tuning in to the couple and the tuning into the energetic and emotional dynamics that's going on within your seller or buyer, that's
Mm-hmm.
paramount to success as a human
Mm-hmm.
being.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy, all the emotional intelligence qualities that we need on the planet today to keep from self-annihilation.
Mm-hmm. And I think what people get scared about though is they think that if they're not focused on growing their business, that if that's not first, then how's it going to come around, right? So if they're just, how do they have their income if they're just going around to these networking things and they're making friends and doing a lot of volunteer things? How does that how does that work
Well,
out?
yeah, that's it. Yeah, so we have to be very intentional
Mm-hmm.
about building our businesses and
Mm-hmm.
systematic, disciplined over long periods of time, defined as 3 to 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
because we're so short-term focused. Attention spans have been hijacked by a tsunami of information and devices, and we see the dynamics in every community in society at large. We are not united.
Mm-hmm.
So in communities and in the business of real estate, you are simply focusing on developing your own self-awareness, learning what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you love, what you don't love, and need to
Mm-hmm.
delegate and pay for in the context of building a business, typically of one.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, teams form, like we
Mm-hmm.
do in financial services, we build these little teams, and there's where you can build some significant momentum. Because
Mm-hmm.
typically there's going to be one rainmaker or two rainmakers on the team. And then the
Mm-hmm.
newer agents who don't have a book of business, a reputation, or a following, or an email list, or hundreds and hundreds of contacts that would take a phone call from them at a moment's notice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're going to be spinning their wheels because all of those disciplines come with a passion for helping people get what they want. And in order to help people get what they want, we have to know what they want. And that
Mm-hmm.
takes tuning into people, our customers, our prospects, and being completely unattached to outcome.
Mm-hmm.
The big mistake we make. Your
Yeah.
buyer's agent takes the prospective buyer around, and unbeknownst to him or her, they're shopping with a couple other buyer agents because they don't
Mm-hmm.
know the code. And right, right,
Yeah,
and then
right.
they pick a house and they're and all these things happen because people are unconscious. We
Right.
can't expect people to understand how our business works. We have to teach them, look, I'm your buyer's agent. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Our agreement is this. If you're
Yeah.
inclined to go see other homes with other agents, I'd like to know about it first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Communication comes from a place
Communication.
of clarity, confidence, self-view, service to others.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so important. So many people, I mean, nowadays you have to talk about the buyer's agreement because the rules have changed.
They have.
But for
Yeah.
so many years, people just don't want to have that conversation. But if you have it, like you had just said, and it comes from confidence and it comes from not wanting to waste anybody's time, and it comes from care, then you can have that conversation and it doesn't feel, weird or anything.
Yes. Well, you have to be very self-assured,
Mm-hmm.
not arrogant, but self-assured.
Mm-hmm.
Loving is the essence.
Mm-hmm.
Loving of your profession and service to others such that you are confident learning to ask those questions in appropriate ways at the appropriate time.
Okay, so what would you say to an agent who's been in the business for lots of years? Maybe they were a buyer's agent, mostly not necessarily a listing agent, so they don't necessarily have a lot of momentum now getting listings and things, so their business has slowed. Um, and they do love their community and they are busy all the time making friends. What is it that they need to do to kind of start building some momentum in their business and starting to sell more homes? So what would you say to them?
Well, I think first and foremost is a reasonable view of what it's going to take to realistically start making the amount of money you want to make.
Mm-hmm.
Because if making money is the primary motivation and it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money, like you want to
Mm-hmm.
be a gazillionaire and it's all about you, people are going to pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wrote a program for a brokerage firm years ago called the Elite Agent Training Program. All the
Mm-hmm.
agents were relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
And the game is listings. And in order
Mm-hmm.
to get listings, you have to farm. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know what area you're going to farm, and you have to consistently be showing up so that you're top of mind. Because when somebody decides to sell a home, the
Mhm.
triggers they vary. It could be something that's work related and beyond their
Mhm.
control. They don't have any notice. That's why relocation experts tend to do pretty well. They're in traffic
Mhm.
where people, executives, for example, you know, you look at some big companies where people are moving around all the time. Those
Mhm.
relocation specialists affiliated with those companies, they crush it because they
Mhm.
found their niche. And that's
Mhm.
what you're trying to do if you're listening to this. You're trying to figure out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, and you're taking a long view and you're putting yourself out there. And in addition to putting yourself out in the general community, you're farming an area with direct
Mhm.
mail. You're
Mhm.
there's a couple of agents who have owned our market. We're in North Scottsdale,
Mhm.
and they have owned our market because they are so consistently visible in our
Mhm.
geographic area that when
Mhm.
someone's ready to list their home, they're like, "Oh, I'm going to call those guys," because they see
Mhm.
them all the time. It's top of
Mhm.
mind awareness, marketing
Mhm.
101.
Mhm.
And that takes money and it takes time and it takes putting ourselves out there regardless of our personality, because introverts can be very successful in any business.
Mhm.
Um, Extroverts, tend to dominate the room or the scene because when an extrovert turns on their extroversion, it gets attention. Introverts
Mhm.
tend to shy away from that, but introverts who are very caring and serving of others can be very successful in any business.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I told you about my business, but that's basically the reason why I started Healthy Home Media is because I wanted a tool to help agents show their care first, right? I mean, with the whole wellness real estate trend happening, it's just such a new topic that nobody knows about. And it's forward-thinking developers who are now intentionally building residential communities that are now more supportive of healthy living. And who doesn't want to live well? But not everybody can live in those communities, but everybody deserves to live in a healthy home, right? So I think that the magazine I create is pretty special because it allows an agent to be able to say, hey, I care about you. I want you to live in a healthy home. And let's talk about, the best air quality consultant in the community or the water filtration person, or just so that they start networking with different people in the community that provide value so that they can be that one that's top of mind, when someone's doing a remodel. Imagine if someone had a son or a child with, or a daughter with asthma, and they knew they were doing a remodel and they said, hey, I just want to connect you with a green building design company because maybe you can find carpeting or flooring that doesn't have VOCs so you're not bringing toxic things into your home that's going to make the asthma worse. I care about you. And that's amazing. Like you do that, then all of a sudden you're kind of in that family circle of trust, right? Because you led with care first instead of, oh, you're remodeling. Are you going to be selling in the next, 6 months
Yeah,
kind of a thing, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the difference between someone who's focused on being of service, genuinely
Mm-hmm.
being of service, and
Mm-hmm.
caring and learning things beyond the scope of real estate. Because
Mm-hmm.
what we have going on in the world today is unsustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening behind the seeming mayhem is a waking up to a quality of life and what really matters,
Mm-hmm.
keeping our mind, body, and spirits aligned so that we feel whole, so that we're not dumping our garbage on people we love, people we work
Mm-hmm.
with,
Mm-hmm.
people we're commuting with, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then that spills into the neighborhood and the community. And one of the biggest problems we have in every community is affordable housing and
Mm-hmm.
literally a mental health crisis. So
Mm-hmm.
if we know what all people want is basically the same thing. We go back to Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. We want our
Mm-hmm.
basic needs met. And if our basic needs can't be met, we're going to be stressed beyond stressed and diseased beyond diseased, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to need a lot of help. So for agents that are more conscious, self-aware, servant-hearted, I guess is the way I would put it, to throw yourself into your local community, knowing that people are looking to heal, build families, smaller circles of relationships as opposed to these superfluous, maddening social madhouses where we have
Mm-hmm.
acquaintances and no friends, no
Mm-hmm.
relationships. That's the shift that's taking place. So if you are new to the business and you're going to stick to real estate, the Elite Agent program was all about positioning yourself to find people ready to move,
Mm-hmm.
or networking with people who would know when people are ready to move so that you have first shot at getting that listing agreement.
Right. So tell me more about that.
Well, it's actually caring and
Mm-hmm.
being involved in your community enough to have people like you. Like
Mm-hmm.
always comes before trust. Nobody's going to trust us if they don't like us.
Mm-hmm.
We get people to like us by bonding with them, figuring out what makes them tick, and authentically building that rapport, that
Mm-hmm.
relationship. In the old days, we sent personal notes, thank yous, a lot of personal interaction in the community. Today, it's a lot more digital. But when those people know you care about
Mm-hmm.
the quality of life, just environment, for example, and we're talking about home improvements,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say most of the contractors I've worked with were not terribly conscious or self-aware of what was important for my wife and I in the quality of our life and our next home.
Mm-hmm.
So to have an agent that was conscious of environmental issues, health issues, things that affect quality of life, and
Mm-hmm.
to suggest that simply adds value and makes that
Mm-hmm.
relationship, that transaction more memorable so
Mm-hmm.
that if we're ready to sell or buy again, Sue would be top of mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also even just, I think when you lead with care, it means you're helping others. And maybe you're helping others and it has nothing to do with buying or selling a home. But then that person becomes your friend because you're help, I can't remember who was the speaker who had said if you help other people, like,
Yeah, people
well,
pe people don't know you care until they care that you know. I think it was Jim
yeah, yeah,
Rohn.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yes. Um,
yeah.
exactly.
Universal law, and
Mm-hmm.
and and we can tell the difference pretty quickly when we meet someone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time horizon, plan of action that's very intentional. Who am I? What kind of clients do I want to serve? How
Mm-hmm.
do I balance building this business? Because building any business takes a lot of energy, a lot of commitment, work, money, and it that takes away from family time
Mm-hmm.
potentially. And if family is important to you and building a business that harmonizes with your life, then it's up to you to figure that out. And that's where coaches or mentors or people who have been where you're going can add inordinate value because we could learn through trial and error. It's classic way to learn. But when I pay somebody who's been where I want to go to teach
Mm-hmm.
me what they know, including where all the landmines and hazards were, to get there safely,
Mm-hmm.
I can sleep better at night.
Yeah. Well, and that's not to say that if you're a family, if you have a family that you shouldn't be a real estate agent because you can be involved in a whole bunch of family community things and with your family and make, getting
Completely,
to know people.
completely.
Yes.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Little, whether it's having kids like our children are having now,
Mm-hmm.
gets them engaged in the community and they make
Mm-hmm.
friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then those friendships, when fostered appropriately, nurtured and taken care of, they'll last forever. But
Mm-hmm.
a big thing I want to share with your audience is that we must have no expectation for outcome when we're networking or befriending or giving to others. We must have no expectation for return because that's where we get disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
It's process. It's
Yeah.
who am I? I'm a real estate professional. I specialize in this part of the community. I farm these neighborhoods. I'm involved in these organizations because I'm genuinely
Mm-hmm.
interested in contributing my time, energy, money, whatever.
And that actually, I mean, that is really so important. I do know some agents who would get so mad if a friend that they know that's part of the thing, gave their listing to somebody else.
Yeah.
And, that happens sometimes. And so if those things are out of your control. And if you have the mindset that, everybody resonates with different people, and of course, no one's doing it intentionally to you, to hurt your feelings or anything. But so don't take it personally. Just know that like they're trying to make the logical decision and they went with somebody else for that logical reason. And if you can like not take it personally and just know that, the people that are going to be attracted to you are coming, then you're going to be less stressed and
Yeah.
you're going to allow those people to be attracted to you rather than being stuck in the,
Yeah.
anger.
Yeah. So I'll never forget what would happen in our home
Mm-hmm.
when one of my parents' friends would list their house with a different agent. My
Mm-hmm.
mother would lose it, and it would be significant. We were
Mm-hmm.
kids, like, okay, what's this all about? But
Mm-hmm.
looking back on it, it was attachment to outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of us don't have many friends. A
Mm-hmm.
friend is somebody we could call if we end up in jail in the middle of the night. That's a
Mm-hmm.
friend, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we have acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
We have friends of friends. And
Mm-hmm.
most people don't care about us. They care
Mm-hmm.
about themselves. And when we
Mm-hmm.
understand that and we put
Well,
ourselves into caring for them, in some instances, we'll forge that bond that sticks.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're basically talking about that authentic, caring,
Mm-hmm.
service-driven, relatively new real estate agent, unsure of is this the right business for me and how
Mm-hmm.
am I going to do it and what's the right best way for me. When you're in it and you have a good team around you or mentors or coaches and these people see your heart,
Mm-hmm.
ask for help. In some cases, people will help you. In some cases, they won't. I just asked for
Mm-hmm.
help recently, and the guy said, "No, I'm not going to help you." I'm like, "Okay, okay,
Okay.
peace be with you, brother."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
I
we
love
have to
that.
be humble enough to ask for help, and it's really a function. I think the most successful agents I know, their characters are just rock solid. They're good human beings.
Mm-hmm.
They
Oh,
care.
for sure. They care and they are involved in their community. Everybody that I know that's really successful is everywhere, like you said. And it's, they've been doing it for so long that now it's kind of like they have this big momentum in their business, right? It wasn't like that day one, but they just kept showing up, kept giving, helping others. And I think that, one of the things too is that some agents want to be the agent for I'm from San Diego, like all of San Diego. They'll sell a home in all of San Diego. And that's such a big area. There's so many agents. I think it's so much better if you are farming a little neighborhood or you're, focusing on just your little community or at least a zip code or something so that you can know those houses that are coming on. There's so much inventory, right? And, when we were looking and buying and selling homes, I felt like, there's so much information that's already on the internet now. Years ago, it was like the real estate agent was the keeper of all the information. So you kind of had to talk to them and you felt like, wow, they really know their stuff because they know what the cost per square foot is, that if you're buying something or when it's sold. But now you can find all that information, already online. So how are you going to, as an agent, provide information that they don't know? And I remember talking to an agent who's like, been in this community for so many years that they're like, I know that house, I know when that one sold, I know when that one sold, and I know the people who lived in that home, and that home had a big water, whatever. And so it's kind of like they're giving you the insider's information. So how can you be
Yeah.
that agent who has the inside information for your community kind of thing?
Great question. So, one of the
Yeah.
best real estate books ever written on the planet Earth was written by Gary Keller. The title of the book is Focus. I think it's
Mm,
Focus. And that's the answer. You
mm,
focus because
mm,
somebody who's trying to cover the whole San Diego metropolitan area is
mm.
delusional. They just don't know any better yet.
Mhm,
When so repetition breeds familiarity
mhm,
in a local market. So if you're constantly focused within your budget and your means to be more visible than most agents in the areas you're farming, and you're at the community center and you're at the city, whatever it is you're involved with in the community, people are going to remember you if you're
Hmm.
doing the right thing to take care of people. They're also
Hmm.
going to remember if you screw people over because karma
Yeah.
works both ways.
Okay, well, so Cliff, we could probably talk for hours, but I know that I want to respect your time, and I know that you have a newsletter. Can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe how people can sign up to learn
Sure,
about
sure.
that?
I've written several books, so you can find my book on Amazon. It's about building a business or a
Hmm.
team, and it's called
Hmm.
Radical Clarity for Business: How to Empower People for Better Results at Work. And then my newsletter is the Clarity Letter, theclarityletter.com.
Hmm.
And if you want to connect with me, I do a lot of strategic coaching with solopreneurs, small businesses, growing companies, and you could find me at cliffordjones.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all your wisdom, and I just appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Sheila, thanks for inviting me to be on your show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something that will inspire you to think about your branding and how you can market yourself a little differently. If you enjoyed this episode, then you're going to love what I have for you because you don't need to wait to go get extra certifications or grow or expand your network to get started attracting new leads right now. You can simply begin by talking about wellness real estate trends and what you've learned on this podcast with others. I mean, this is an interesting topic that no one has heard about, and I have all the tools that can make it even easier for you. Wellness Real Estate Magazine is a brand new wellness lifestyle magazine, and it's the only magazine that brings health and home together. We educate readers on industry trends and how you can create a healthier home environment. Written by industry experts around the country, and we have 3 covers to choose from: Wellness RE, Healthy Home, and Wellness at Home. So you can easily find one that aligns with your unique brand and messaging. These magazines are the perfect done-for-you tools that help you not only stay top of mind, but help you be memorable. They also educate and engage your audience, which positions you as an industry expert. So differentiate yourself and grow your brand the easy way. Learn more at healthyhomemedia.com.